Hello.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Tony. Hi, Tony. Hi, Josh.
Hi. Hi, Joe.
Okay, is Gene joining us tonight?
He's on the screen.
He's on the
Okay.
screen. He's there.
Good enough. Hi, Gene.
Big G, the big G.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
That Gene?
yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, good. It's 6:30. I'll call the Wednesday, November 15th, 6:30 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Opening, let's see. Some typical announcements. I'll read through them. Curbside leaf pickup every Monday. Leaves must be biodegradable bags only. No open barrels, roots, root balls, and branches bigger than 4 inches in diameter. Bags must be filled out, put out by 7 a.m. Annual report photo contest. Submit your favorite photo or drawing of Nahant to be entered into the contest to be chosen for the front cover of the 2023 annual report book. Visit nahant.org for contest rules, or email ktaylor@nahant.org for more information. Town Hall is closed on November 23rd and November 21st, 4th, in observance of Thanksgiving holiday. Trash pickup delayed for the week of Thanksgiving. Thursday pickup moved to Friday, and Friday will be moved to Saturday. Okay. These are coming up events. Saturday, November 18th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The annual Lions Club turkey shoot behind the DBW on Flash Road. Saturday, November 25th through December 17th, the PTO Christmas tree sales at Lowlands parking lot. Thursdays and Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday, November 25th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Women's Club Holiday Fair at Town Hall. Saturday, December 2nd, 6 p.m. Annual tree lighting at Town Hall. Saturday, December 16th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Christmas parade fundraiser at the Tides. And Saturday, December 23rd at 6 p.m. will be the annual Christmas parade. Okay, Josh, any opening comments?
No, sounds like a lot of fun stuff coming up, but otherwise I have no comments.
Gene?
No, yes and no. I was going to make a suggestion that we move the opening comments. Well, we can keep the opening comments, but move something to closing comments right after Tony does his administrator's report. That way there we've covered everything that you just talked about. We'll have covered the TA report, we've covered this, that. Then we could have a selectmen's forum or selectmen's comments. At that point, we'll either have covered it or it's something we're bringing up in the meeting, albeit something we should be bringing up separately with Tony, but just something to wrap up that portion of the meeting before we get into the citizens' comments. Just a thought, something to sleep on.
Sure, I want to do that tonight. I mean, any member of the board can speak up whenever they feel. But if you want me to come back to that, Gene, I'll do that.
Well, if I could just weigh in on that a little bit, one thing that we try to do through Citizens Forum a lot is, be responsive to questions and comments that come up during Citizens Forum as best as we can. But we are flirting a little bit with the open meeting law by doing that. And in Gene's recommendation, it's certainly it's your meeting, but similarly, the the essence of the open meeting law is to give proper notice to folks when certain topics of conversation are going to be discussed. And so, we should keep that in mind, with what Gene's recommending. So it doesn't mean something can't get brought up. We just might not be able to really get into a discussion on it until the following meeting when it's posted and noticed properly.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of having anything brought up in terms of requiring a vote, but
Right.
if someone had a closing comment or something at the end, I don't think there's any
Yeah.
issue with
Well, a good example would be, I'm going to, and I'll bring it up now. I was going to ask Tony, I've had several people inquire about the benches around town, particularly on beaches, whether they're available or not, and what the costs are, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's not going to require a vote. That's going to require some follow-up information, of which I'm going to ask Tony right now if he can respond to that one.
Okay.
That would come at the end.
Okay, Tony?
Yeah.
Response?
So I'm happy to comment on that. Again, even though it doesn't require a vote, if there's going to be discussion and sharing of opinions, it's still flirting with open meeting law. This particular subject is a matter of fact, so it's no big deal, I don't think, unless you were trying to propose a change. But right now, we have a memorial bench program. We actually also have a memorial tree program that we're still working on publishing the details of, but it is in place. So if folks reached out to the town hall for a memorial bench, we typically will tell them about the tree program as well. But we have a moratorium on benches at the beaches in place because there's more than enough benches already in place, and especially at Short Beach, that's actually an active dune. So we don't want to be encouraging more traffic, foot traffic across the top of the dune. So if folks are interested in a memorial bench, just call the town hall, speak to Mary Lowe. We have an application that can be filled out, and usually it's a conversation with the applicant about, they say, hey, I'm interested in putting in a bench. What are my options? And we kind of talk with them personally about, areas in town that are important to them and whether or not we have space for a bench in that area.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Yeah, I think that'll help.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on then. Item number 3, we have Coast Guard housing update. Tony?
Dan, do you want to do legal update first? You just muted yourself.
Yeah,
Dan.
there we go. I sure did. Let's see. The litigations are going along smoothly. We had two litigation cases against one tenancy. One was dismissed for some procedural issues, but one is strongly for going forward, and that's the one on Castle. But at the same time, they're supposed to be gone next month, so that might all be moot, as we say in the legal world. Hopefully that will happen. I'm waiting to hear back from the attorney. I was hoping to hear it today, but he said there were some issues they have a new baby in that place, so there's some issues with the new baby. So hopefully tomorrow. We have a trial date on Alessi for December 13th, and we're awaiting a trial date for Carmody, probably right around the same time, actually. So that's what's happening in the legals and then the lawsuit sense.
And as far as demolition goes, the American Environmental and Axiom have made significant progress. All properties have known abatements have already been completed. Actually, 4 of the units closer to Goddard Drive were demolished today. They're going to continue making progress on that over the coming days, coming weeks. For good news, the oil tanks that were removed, there wasn't any contaminated soil in those areas, so we don't have any unknown soil I'm losing track. I can't think of the word.
Contamination.
Contamination, which is a positive. However, on the other side, there was an unknown contaminated issue with, not really contaminated, but hazardous material in the underneath the slabs of each property was actually an old HVAC ductwork system that was comprised of asbestos lined cement piping. So that was newly discovered, unanticipated work. Luckily, we have some savings in the damp proofing line item in our contract, and we have some saving in our Axiom contract because American Environmental is moving so fast that there's less on-site work days projected at this point. So we'll have some savings in our original expected cost, but now we have some new costs that were unexpected dealing with the with this subfloor hazardous material. So I don't have the numbers on it yet. They're still investigating. It's per linear foot, so we'll know soon enough. But progress is moving right along.
Great, Tony. Josh or Gene, any comments on this?
Yeah, so I wanted to get a clearer picture of the schedule. I've been asked by some people, like, what's the schedule? So houses down, slabs removed. Tony, you and I talked a little bit about this earlier today. Slabs removed, plots graded. Is that kind of the next thing?
Yep. So we don't have really, once the foundations or the slabs get removed, we'll have a better idea of what grading is going to look like. It's not included in the current contract. We might be able to do that in-house. So yes, so once all the structures are removed and cleaned out, next step will be abating this new discovery of material, then removal of the cement slabs, then some element of grading, then an appraisal of the empty lots will be next. That appraisal will be provided to the Town and Land Study Committee. They will complete their process and forward it to the selectmen, and then the selectmen will initiate or vote to initiate the procurement process. Dan, myself, and folks from KP Law are going to meet. Likely I'll include the chairman in that meeting, as well as Allison, because of the borrowing and the timing of the sales and whether the borrowing is tax exempt or not. Gets a little technical in the time frame. But we want to meet and kind of talk about how that process is going to look and really try to draw out a time frame for you. But the way that how quickly things are moving, our hope is that we have appraisals being initiated, unless I don't think we're going to run into any type of timing issue with appraisal companies. So if they can come out pretty quick, I mean, I'm thinking we're doing that in sometime in December or January.
Oh, that's good. And then,
okay, go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask. So, you have to meet with Dan and the other legal folks to figure out what the sale process is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was, we just list it with an agent, or there's some government, property approval process. And I know that's what you're meeting to sort out, so you don't have to explain it all now. But
I mean, unless you, Dan, I don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, we've done land sales in the past
Yeah.
And it's just, but it's been on small pieces of property with only one interested buyer. All we did was post a notice in the paper and on our website that something was up for sale, and we set a date by which they should submit their interest and offer. This, is obviously at a much bigger scale. So I think, I'm not really sure, how that might be different or if it's going to be similar.
I can explain a little bit.
Yeah.
First of all, we have an A&R here, really, which is basically a fancy name for a subdivision. So we have a lot of properties that are being split up. So it's a lot more than just selling off one parcel like we did to the bird sanctuary down by Furbush. It's a whole different process. And don't forget, the town meeting vote insisted upon covenants in these deeds. So that's going to be a key part to this as well. So it's a lot of moving parts versus one property being disposed of. So that's why there's a bit of a team going on here.
So it's all subject to procurement, chapter 30B.
There's that too. But to Josh's point, yeah, the federal government is not involved. We're all set with them. It has nothing to do with that. With them, I should say.
Any other questions, Josh?
No.
Gene?
Yeah, just to say that that's great. The great news tonight is that we have no contamination for a couple of reasons. Obviously, not having contamination, but the other is it keeps us on track to the timeline. So yeah, that's good news, Tony.
Yes.
And actually, I missed how many oil tanks have been removed so far.
So of the 9 vacant properties, 8 of them had underground oil tanks, and all 8 of them have been removed.
Oh, great. So the only unknowns are the 3 occupied houses, right?
Right.
Oh, all right. So that's great.
So, Tony, so Allison, so this borrowing may be subject to be tax-free, right?
So if you sell the property, I think within 90 days of the due date of the ban, then it becomes taxable. So we want to, we're just trying to, obviously it's probably not a huge financial impact, but if we can avoid a taxable ban, it's in better interest for the town. So it's just a matter of predicting when these sales are going to happen, and those bans that are on a 6-month cycle. So, I'd like her to be included in that conversation.
Sure. So we're going to have to pay the contractor. We haven't gone out the ball yet, so we'll probably do a revenue anticipation note of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Thanks. Things seem to be going along smoothly. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Any new business, Tony?
Well, we have, it's actually, I just wanted to mention, and I think it's under my town administrator report, but National Grid gas work is occurring on Wilson Road and Emerald Road. Unfortunately, we had a water break today on Wilson Road that we had to, on a service line that we had to shut down a portion of Little Nahant for a few hours there, but it's been fixed and the water's back on, and where, that's back in shape. It's likely that their winter work will, that once they get to mid-December, they may shut down work for the winter and then come back in the spring to finish up. So I expect them to continue to work all the way through mid-December in both locations. I also think we may have had some interruptions in the trash collection on Emerald Road last week. So we've reached out to Waste Management, trying to figure out a solution there. Likely it will be an early collection before utility work begins. So once I have that confirmed, we'll make sure we get information out to those who will be affected by that they have to get their trash out earlier in the morning.
Okay. Great. Gina, Josh, anything on the new business? You want to bring up?
No,
None here.
Okay, great. Okay, ongoing business. We have a vote here to approve some ARPA funding for the compost pilot program. Can someone make that motion, please?
sure. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to encumber $10,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, spending to fund the composting pilot program for the town of Nahant.
Seconded.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. Tony?
Yes, so since we've started this program, we've had 54 new signups to Black Earth Compost. The first 32 had put up, they had spent at max $269.49 for their full year of membership plus their starter kit, and they were reimbursed in full. That cost us about $8,500. Once that number was hit, the town had reached its 100 membership threshold, and so the cost of the annual membership is reduced down to from $229.99 for the year for weekly pickup down to $159.99 for weekly pickup. So plus the starter kit, folks were spending $199.49 and that's being fully reimbursed. So to date, we've spent in reimbursements through the ARPA funds $12,871.46. So the program, they keep coming in. So the program has launched quickly and it's successful quickly. And so this is to keep the momentum going. So this would be a total of $25,000 of ARPA funds being encumbered towards the compost program.
Well, that's great, Tony. Thanks for putting this together, and I do see a lot more composting bins out on Tuesday mornings now. Hopefully, we can see some more. Could you ask Mary Lowe to make sure that she's looking monthly at the tonnage and compare it to last year to this year as we move forward to see how we're affecting the tonnage and for the same period of time each year. And now that we have over 100 people on this program, I think you're going to see quite a difference, and hopefully that will translate into a reduction in trash bills next year.
Yes, she already initiated that conversation with Waste Management. Ellen Goldberg's going to help us with tracking some of that data as well. So, yep, we're definitely looking forward to to seeing the impacts of that. But we haven't even had we'll have a month soon. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for helping out in this program.
One quick question I had. So just to understand, so the free kit or whatever is still available, but at some point could run out of money if enough people signed up. I forget exactly what the option was. Like if you order it, you got reimbursed for the kit, and
so no matter,
I probably didn't say that well. So A, what's the offer, and B,
you have to sign up for 1 year's worth of weekly collection.
yeah,
And you can pick any starter kit that they offer.
yeah,
And we'll reimburse you for both of those things.
yeah,
And then when you submit your form for reimbursement to the town hall, there's also a countertop bin here that you get for free as well. So we have I believe we have 50 of those countertop bins. And, but I know that Swim has, talked about buying more. With adding more ARPA funds, we can purchase some more of those as well. So we must have handed all of those out at this point.
Okay,
But
I guess
not
I'm
everybody-
wondering is this, does the offer end at some point when we run out of money or before midnight tonight, or that kind of thing?
This
I happen to know a family that hasn't ordered their kit yet.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So it's time and or money, whichever comes first. We have to spend our ARPA funds by the end of next calendar year. We've discussed using some of those ARPA funds towards other initiatives. And so once we spend, right now we're at 25,000. If we get closer to like 45,000 or 50,000, that might be a point where we want to, stop the pilot program. But also by mid-summer next year, we may want to stop the program too, because then we're going to have to, if we're going to use the remaining amount of money for other initiatives, we have to get that obligated and spent by the end of December, I believe. So it's kind of a timing. Right now, it seems like we're in good shape to continue this at least through spring of next year. Unless we continue to get 50 new members a month, which is a positive too. So.
Okay, thanks.
Tony, is there a threshold where a number that we can achieve where Black Earth wouldn't charge the town at all?
To charge the residents at all?
Exactly.
Every 100 customers reduces the rate by another, was it 20? I forget what the percentage was.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 20?
I believe so.
Right. So if we get to 200 customers, it'll reduce another 20%. I don't think it would ever get to zero. I don't know.
Okay. Well, at 200, that's only $10 a month per resident. It's not crazy money, but okay, great. Thanks. Any further discussion on this? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Shanford, mine.
Ellen and I. Okay, next on the agenda is the town administrator's goals. We've been discussing this. Tony, I know you've been working on this. You might want to give us an update on where you stand on them. And at some point, if you could distribute them to each member, we could begin our own work.
I grabbed the document from last year and cleaned it up. I had added responses to each of the goals, and then you scored me on each one of those goals. So I cleaned all that up, and then I removed goals that had been completed or are no longer relevant, or we discussed them and changed them or whatever. And I've took that document, I sent it to you just before we got on the call tonight. I also, in that email, talked about some major items and projects for the upcoming year that I know of, that I have on my budget sheet. And so I included those in the email for you guys to think about, and how you want to, if you want to include those as objectives, and how you would want to write them. So once you get a moment to take a look at that, if you want to email me back with some suggestions, if you want to make track changes to the document, whichever way you want to go, send them individually back to Kristen, and she'll compile it into one document, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good. Josh or Gene, any more comments on this?
No, I'll try to get that back by Sunday night.
Okay, great. Me too. Okay, the other thing, we
So,
discussed- Yep.
just on this, that Tony and I talked about this yesterday. And the two things I'd like to see, and I would hope you concur with it, is that one, we deal with what is still hanging out there. And I'm using the wrong verbiage here to say hanging out there, but those that are incomplete with some sort of a timeline upon completion. And the other is the level of importance. So if we take a look at everything that he just sent us, we can now establish a timeline and a level of importance line of when these have to be done and which ones before the others. Because when you look at the list coming up of new goals, it's I don't know what the word for that would be. It's an overburden to anybody to try to pull that all off. Again, I think it's a matter of taking the most important, putting those on the docket and let the others stay for a while, whatever they might be. Some are very important, some are not so important. I just sense that Tony has a lot in front of him in terms of completing last year's and starting this year's. Just a consideration. And Mark, you had talked about putting a timeline on these things to close them out.
Yeah, well, two things. Gene, are you asking Tony to sort of prioritize his goals when he sends them out?
No, I think we should do that with Tony, or if Tony wishes, he can do it, submit it to us and we can look at it.
Okay.
I just sense there's stuff hanging out there that we need to close out, and there's new stuff coming in that's it's an extensive list.
Okay, then let's take a look at what Tony sends us, and you know, we can, as Tony said, there are some that will close out automatically because they're done. Some of these things are ongoing, like the administration of the town hall and fiscal responsibilities, and you know, keeping the board of selectmen informed and those types of things. And those are sort of goals that will probably repeat themselves each and every year. And then there are project specific goals that I'm sure Tony will address. So we can look at that when we get it. The other thing,
Tony, are you comfortable with the way I laid that out, or my viewpoint on it?
I am here to walk through those with you all. I think the goals are helpful to me to understand what your priorities are too. So having that perspective from you is good for me. But there are details within each objective that, you know, some projects like, you know, some projects are move along faster than others, right? Some projects are reliant on like coastal projects are reliant on grant reviews and permitting, and they'll never be accomplished, you know, in 1 year. But making progress on them, consistent progress, is important. You know, so you might want to have that high, but you know, you realize it might not come to completion before something lower on the list. So that's just a discussion, I think. But I think understanding, you know, and feel free to add more to what I shared with you. I'm sure there's more. So understanding, you know, where your priorities are it's always helpful to me to make sure that, you know, I'm carrying those out on your behalf.
Yeah, I think we all share priorities is what it's all about. And I think if we can maybe let's decide tonight how this is going to go. Mark, I'll leave that with you. You could maybe suggest how to review these and get back to Tony on them, or vice versa. He sent everything to us just tonight. We have all that.
I think the best way of going about this is to do our individual review and comments, send it into Kristen. She can put it all together into one document, and then at our next meeting we can go through it and prioritize it or weigh them in a way that you'd be comfortable with, Gene.
Perfect.
Okay. The other thing, Tony, I know you're in the last. We talked about this in our last meeting. About your contract. You're in the last year of your contract, so I don't think it's too soon where you could probably do a draft of what you would like to see in your next contract, and get that to us over the next month or so that we can begin discussions on that.
Definitely. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, I just don't want to wait till last minute. I know that I think out of the last meeting, I think special act requires that we give you 6 months prior notice, which we did at our last meeting. So let's continue that process, that progress, and perhaps over the next week or two, you could draft a contract that items in your contract that you would like to see.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Mark. 3 years goes by fast, but I remember last go around, it takes time to do some iterations on the contract. So yeah, good idea to get an early start.
Okay, great. And the one last thing on the get back to the goals, Gene, what I did suggest before was that we do either quarterly reviews or at least biannual reviews, but probably quarterly reviews rather than just wait until the end of the year and do a review, but sort of a progress review each quarter.
Totally agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on then. Lowlands drainage update.
Thank you. So we have our engineer is in the surveying and investigation phase. They've done all survey points has been completed. They've actually cleaned and cambered about 90% of the drainage pipes in the area. The most important one, the pipe that goes from Fox Hill Road through property to Ward Road and to the ditch. They had issues with accessing it for cleaning. So Zach has met with them, came up with a solution, and I believe they're going to be back on site on Friday to finish that portion of the job. And once that's done, they will go right into they've probably already started thinking about design, but this is such a key element. They'll go right into design phase from there.
So when do you think they'll start putting in the new pipes?
I don't know. I'll have to wait until post Friday and the conversation with what they discovered to really have a better answer on that.
All right, can you let us know how it goes after your Friday meeting?
I'm not going to be there Friday. I'll probably try and meet with them after that, like next week. But yeah, I will let you know as soon as I know.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Tony. Right away.
Right of way. So Dan, if you want to jump in on this one too, you reached out to our title examiner, and
That's right.
Yep.
We reached out to Kim Sherman, who was formerly of the registry, that's a Southern Essex registry, I believe. So she really knows the ins and outs of this sort of stuff. So she was helpful in doing some stuff for us in Little Nahant, notably the right of way right at the tip of Little Nahant. So we are going to engage her to help us out with the right of ways in Big Nahant. And Tony and I are trying to schedule a meeting with her very, very soon. The email chain is already going, so we can sit down and talk about the scope of work that we need her to do moving forward. So she's on board, ready to go, happy to do it. And we can expect a really good product. She knows this stuff, like I said, in and out.
And you've already previewed some of the items that we've gone through with coastal right of ways at Little Nahant with her. So
But we
she-
talked, yeah, Little Nahant, we had some conversations were very enlightening. I just learned that we actually took one or two of the right of ways that I couldn't find in my title researching. Like I said, she really knows how to dig into where these things are hidden. So she's been very helpful.
There's
So
a
is,
decent amount of paperwork and files here in the town hall too, from previous work done through Mark and the planning board and things of that nature. So we should provide her some of that information or copies of all of that as well. I'm sure that
My predecessor, Charlie, had a whole file on it, and I had it
Yeah.
here. I may have put it back in the vault, but very helpful.
Josh, would you want to be part of that meeting?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me, Josh, let me jump in. I can go through the files in the file room, Tony, and pull out for you and Josh all the relevant material that was done in the past. We had 10 plats. We divided the town into 10 areas, Little Nahant being one, and I think we pretty much did that. And then plat 2 was both Castle Road, and then it went through Big Nahant. But I'll pull all that information out. There's another file downstairs that I saw that has a pretty good description of what we think are all of the right of ways. So I think Dan, the consultant, it may be useful for her to take a look at that information. But I'll pull it out for you, Josh, and we can go through it.
Okay,
Hey, Mark.
thanks.
Mark, how many rights of ways are we dealing with challenged rights of way?
Well, I'm not sure anything is being challenged at this point. But I mean, Little Nahant alone, there must be 15, 16 maybe rights of way. And we're probably looking at, I wouldn't be surprised, 40, 50 in Nahant.
And beyond that, every roadway is considered a right of way as well. We have prescriptive easement on a lot of stuff. That's something that I'd like to include in this project, Gene, because we've had issues in the past, property lines and things of that nature. And, if there's a way to clean all that up, it may require a town meeting vote, but to, finally kind of clean the records up so that everything is, written how it should be and accounted for. Every time we run into like a property line issue, it's so much work trying to dig up the history of how that property was transferred from this to that, and a town meeting vote occurred at, this time and that time. So I'd like to include that in this project as well as just pedestrian access right of ways.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to get up there.
Yeah. That's good. Thanks for that, Mark. But maybe I'm stating it obvious, maybe I'm not, but where I want to get to is getting out a stencil and painting on the road, public right of way or public access here. Is there any, and I know it's complicated with all this stuff, but are there any non-controversial or already surveyed rights of ways that we can actually mark?
We marked them all in Little Nahant with signs. You could go back and mark them, and I believe the one at the tip that Dan is working on is the only right of way that I know of in Little Nahant that is controversial. Might have some legal issues around it. The other rights of ways, I don't believe they're contested by any of the abutters, because I went through that process. We actually had them. We did the title search. We did survey. We notified all of the abutters of the information that we found on each of those rights of ways, and told them if they have any questions or concerns or disagreements to contact us. And we didn't get any responses.
Yeah.
But those those were all marked at one point, and I know that occasionally we had issues with people taking the signs down in the middle of the night, but maybe painting them on the street would work too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like for us as a board to prioritize getting the streets marked, ideally on the pavement or with signs for ones that we can at this time.
My only caution with this sometimes, Josh, is that there are some rights of ways in Little Nahant. They're clearly rights of ways, but essentially they lead to a cliff. You know, Dan, you might want to jump in on this, and whether or not we're encouraging people to go into an area that may not be safe. There are rights of way in Little Nahant that are encroached upon. There's garages on them or parts of a house on them. That hasn't been resolved. So, I mean, you know, we put it down, people may start walking through what seems like someone's backyard.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I mean, it's
it's
kind
a little
of
dicey.
my point exactly, right?
Yeah, okay. I hear you.
Yeah.
A question for Dan. Dan, over a period of time where some of these rights of ways have just been abandoned by everybody, does that change the time frame in any way for prescriptive easements?
No, this is registered land, so the prescriptive easements are different. So you can't have a prescriptive easement unless it's actually filed with the court in I think it's actually federal court. So that would not really be an issue with regard to these rights of ways.
I think what Gene is asking, that a homeowner who had encroached upon a public right of way cannot take that by a prescriptive easement because
Right.
It's correct.
It's registered, not because it's public land. It's not that. It's because it's registered land. You've got to go through a process. And I've not seen that at all anywhere.
Not all of the properties are registered. Not all of the boundaries are registered. Little Nahant it's all land court. So that's why we did Little Nahant first, because it was pretty easy. It is what it is. The rest of Nahant is not basically land court.
Right. Yeah. I'm only thinking a little. Now I'm thinking of the current right of way.
Yeah.
That's why, and I understand the sense of urgency from Josh. But that's why, each one of these are so unique. And, before marking something and encouraging people to walk in that area, you want to make sure that, the title research is sound, you have the right to be there, it's safe to be there. There's just a lot to it. There are other, Dan and I walked every single coastal right away in Little Nahant. We knocked on doors, we left letters, we met with a lot of abutters. Some are encroached, like you said, Mark, with actual structures like buildings or garages. Some are encroached with just plantings, garden beds and things of that nature. And while it's an encroachment, it needs to be fixed and settled. Currently it isn't. And so in my opinion, I'd like to have that fixed before you have someone walk in because no one's going to walk through a garden bed. They're going to end up taking the grass, which is technically the homeowner's property because their garden bed is in the right of way. So now you're really, it's making sure that the right of way is clear, safe, and accessible before you start marking it, I think is important, as well as ensuring like the title research is sound. But I understand the urgency. I know it's a priority for you. And I think, maybe sitting down that meeting with the title examiner will help explain a lot of it.
Yeah. So I guess, I'm just, what I'm hoping we can do is prioritize the ones that are clear, safe, accessible, and the title search stuff is done. That's also, anyway, we can talk about it more later, but
and keep in mind, we have one cleared open. Joe Moshe had one next to one of his properties that he cleared away. So it's open and safe for anyone to go up and down it right on Wilson, right halfway up Wilson on the
Yeah.
ocean side. So that's
Yeah.
progress.
Okay, let's move on then. Preserving East Point, I know we're gonna be talking about that later tonight. We're going into executive session on that. Josh, you any updates on that?
Nothing new really. I think there's a hearing in early December, and the legal team seems to think that the judge will make a ruling in the first quarter of 2024. A ruling on the validity of the taking.
Mhm. And there's a ruling on the appeal too, we have in there, right?
Oh, right, yeah. I want to say that maybe the paperwork gets filed Friday, the 17th, this week.
Yeah.
That's an appeal of the, that's the appeal of the, oh, what is it? Chapter 93?
Yeah,
93?
chapter 90, yeah. Not it. I forget what it is. Yeah,
It wasn't the taking, it was a public use matter.
yeah, right, exactly.
The public dedication case, we appealed that. That's the one.
And good. All right, great. Town administrators report.
So I already spoke on the National Grid gas upgrade work for anybody that tuned in late. They're currently doing work on Wilson Road and Emerald Road. We experienced a water break today when they hit a service line, so we had to shut down Little Nahant for a few hours to make that repair. But that's been repaired and all set. They're likely going to continue work through the middle of December, and then they may shut down for the winter and come back in the spring to complete the work. This is to install upgraded gas mains and service lines. I'm also working with Waste Management to rectify any sort of collection service issues that were interrupted by the work on either road, Wilson or Emerald. So if there is any issue there and there any corrective action, we'll make sure we communicate that with the residents. And CPC application process, I met with the Community Preservation Committee the other day. They have begun their process of getting prepared for the upcoming grant process this year, leading into town meeting. They'll be having a meeting in the coming weeks, a public meeting to talk about the process, the types of projects that they've funded in the past, and what they're answer any questions about potential applications in the future. They're also working with our website developer to create an online fillable form for the application instead of a downloadable PDF. You'll just be able to go right onto nahant.org and fill out the grant application through an online form. So we're working on that. We don't have a launch date yet, but hopefully in the coming weeks we'll be able to announce the launch of that online form. So anybody interested in CPC applications, now it's time to start doing your homework and getting ready to tune into the CPC meetings as they occur to be prepared to apply for those as they become available.
Is that it?
I think that's it. I just wanted to double check one thing. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, great. Okay, what's next? Citizens forum?
Hey, before you go into that, can I just slide something in here?
Yeah. Sure.
And the first is just to get a feel for it. A lot of people, a number of people are asking about the possibility of going back to town hall meetings, selectmen meetings. I don't know how to answer that other than to say right now it's not in the plan.
So we have the ability to go back in person. We, uh, it's right now it's extended until, I think we have the ability to stay on Zoom, I think until 2025.
Yeah, it's a long way.
By law. Now, there's a lot of support on both sides. You know, we get a lot of participation through Zoom for folks who aren't able to come up here. And then, you know, there's a lot of people who like the traditional mode of meeting in person. We have the ability to do a hybrid version of our meetings in the conference rooms downstairs. So the Board of Selectmen could meet in person. Residents could either tune in through Zoom or attend the meeting in person. And we can broadcast that through Zoom and through the local TV channel. When we go upstairs into the main hall, we don't have the ability to do a hybrid meeting. So if we're hosting meetings upstairs, it'll be completely in person. Of course, we'll broadcast so people can tune in from at home, but if they wanted to participate, they'd have to be there in person. It's really up to the Board of Selectmen and in which way you want to try to proceed. But those are your options.
Well, I mean, my feeling is, you know, I've been either the town administrator or a member of the Board of Selectmen now for 25 years. Typically, I don't see, I'm looking right now, there are 20 people on our meeting. I would never see 20 people on an open meeting, Selectmen's meeting at Town Hall. Typically, we would have none unless it was something controversial. So I mean, I like the participation, particularly for some of the elderly who can't get out and get up there every other week. Yeah, so I'm comfortable with the Zoom. I mean, I would certainly entertain a hybrid type of situation if that works. But you know, I don't know the disadvantages of staying with Zoom, if there are any, other than maybe some people don't have computers, perhaps, can't access it. But I don't know. Your feelings, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, as Tony said, we as a board decide how we're going to meet. So that's good. And I guess my only thought was I would defer to the choice of the chairman.
Right.
I just thought because of some conversations I had, I threw it out there, and that's good. We have a healthy conversation, and we can decide.
What were the issues? Were there issues with Zoom? People like the Zoom meetings, or what are you hearing?
Mostly traditional, kind of. We always did it. Why don't we still do it? It's nice to go up to the town hall. We like in-person meetings. And then, of course, I think as Tony just said, you're going to have the other half that's going to say, no, this Zoom is excellent. It's an opportunity for more people to get on board. But then you just brought up a hybrid situation, and that's also a good movement.
We could also alternate.
Yeah. We'd have to alternate.
Okay, I've got one more, if I could. And Dan, this kind of goes to you. A lot of conversation and a lot of Facebook discussion, and I don't go on, but I did go on at somebody's request, and there were probably 9 or 10 comments dealing with this subject, and that's airplane noise. Now, I know that the town is too small to make any kind of an impact when we're battling larger communities, but what have courses changed, Dan?
Not that I know of. I did email the committee about 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard anything back, so I'll email them again tonight. But I haven't. I see the planes coming back and forth all the time. I haven't noticed any changes. with regard to the heavies, the big ones, Cape Air and the regionals, they tend to cut it shorter, but they're not the same as the big ones, the FedExes and the Southwest. So I've not seen that change at all, and I'm only concerned about 2-2 left, right? So not seeing any
Is that
change.
which is 2-2 left?
Well, so 2-2 is the magnetic heading. So there's 2-2 left and 2-2 right. They're just two runways. 2-2 right's a bit smaller, so you have the Cape Air and the non-turbo props flying into that one, and you have the big planes landing on 2-2 left, which is parallel to 2-2 right. They're just runways related to the magnetic heading. What I can do is I can check the plates, the approach plates tonight, to make sure that they haven't changed, and I can send that to you to show you that it's the same. Now, the approaches are not the same as departures. Departures are a little different, but I can check on those too. That being said, even if an approach plate or a departure procedure sends something over the causeway, that's not to say that in certain circumstances that needs to come closer to Nahant to avoid weather, avoid traffic, or whatever else might be out there. So that does happen on occasion. But in terms of the standards, I can look at those tonight to see what the updated ones are. And they're updated pretty much every month. They're updated. I can make sure that the current ones still are over the causeway, if not further away.
My perception is that it's mostly the departures that are bothering people, or maybe people think have changed.
Well, it makes sense. There's more power in departure than there is on arrival, of course. So
yeah.
But when we met with folks from the CEC, it wasn't, departures are only going to occur really because of a weather pattern issue.
Wind.
Yeah. So it's actually mostly it's arrivals.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, because of the prevailing winds, but like they're taking off into the wind, right? So if the wind's out of the north, they'd be departing from that runway, right?
Right. So again, the runways are related to magnetic headings, compass rose. So if you're taking off and landing on 2-2, that means the wind is coming from 2-2. So you're taking off,
or anywhere in that 180-degree arc or 90-degree arc, or
not that drastic, but they would just switch runways, right? Because there's 2-2 left, 2-2 right, and there's a bunch of other ones that go in different directions.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get the idea. But there's gonna be a crosswind sometimes anyway, no matter what you do.
Particularly mornings and with low cloud cover, early mornings, like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, you can really hear them on departure.
You can blame FedEx for that. The cargo planes go out really early, so that's what that is. But they have the -8s and the MD-80s.
Is that what it is?
The MD-80s are the FedEx planes with the 3 engines, one on the vertical stabilizer. Yeah, they're loud, and they really. I mean, they don't have any passengers, so they're not worried about passenger comfort. So they'll really press it.
they'll cut the corner hard.
Yeah, they don't mind taking steep turns in those big planes.
If they have a runway sequence set up, like let's say, for example, landings and takeoffs are supposed to go over the causeway, maybe the halfway point. They're not doing that. I mean, is that a fuel savings for them to bring it in closer?
Well, less time in the air means less fuel. But that being said, if they're diverting from the standard departure procedure, it's not a fuel issue. It's probably more of, like Tony said, a weather issue or a traffic issue, or something else might be happening around that airspace. But more often than not,
can a pilot make that decision himself?
In an emergency situation, a pilot can do whatever a pilot needs to do to make the flight safe. But other than that, they have to abide by ATC, air traffic control. If you don't follow air traffic control, you're going to have a darn good reason for it. But otherwise, the ATC tells you where to go.
Yeah, I just don't know if pulling together a larger committee or stronger committee, or calling in on a regular basis is going to help because of our size. I mean, we're certainly not making an impact, and there are people in town that are concerned, and they are making the effort. But I'm thinking to myself, if there's a runway pattern that's been deviated from, maybe we can approach it from that perspective.
I'll tell you, Gene, the best thing to do would be to have these folks keep a log And I mean, tracking these flights is easy. Anyone can do it on Flight Radar 24. I'm looking at the flights right now. You know, one's coming right down Revere Beach. So you can track these flights very easily. So if someone keeps a log, that's okay. It's this, and it's gonna be pretty precise. These flights come in what 8-minute deviations or so when it's busy. So if they keep a log saying, okay, this time of day, this day of week, this time of day, this plane came over, not over the causeway because that's expected, over Nahant, that would be more effective. If we can track those and we can just research them and go from there. Because I don't see it. I tell you what, my eyes are always on this guy because that's just the way I'm doing things. I rarely see big planes come over the hot. Not to say that doesn't happen, but I rarely see it.
I think the residents they have to call the complaint line, 617-561-3333, save it in your phone, or on the website, that's on our website. Also the link to where you can submit a noise complaint online is on our website. Click it, save it as a saved website or a favorited website on your phone, and consistently report it to Logan Airport and Massport. The Board of Selectmen, the town of Nahant, collecting them and having a committee is not going to make a larger impact than the number of complaints that they receive through that complaint line. That is the number one way to, no pun intended, get on their radar. You just got to make the call. You got to submit it to Massport, and they look at that. They look at those numbers.
Maybe we can get some folks to work this. So do we have a committee?
We have a noise abatement committee.
One of them's got his hand up right now.
Okay, you want to move on to citizens forum?
All right, George, I think your hand was up first. Go ahead, just say your name and address, please.
Sure, George Mahovan, 64 Lennox Road, Nahant, Mass. I get a little sidetracked here talking about the airplane noise. It hasn't stopped. Big Nahant has no idea what Little Nahant is suffering through almost daily. 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning starts. Sometimes it goes all day long. It doesn't stop until 4 o'clock in the morning. Then it starts again at 5 o'clock in the morning. One of the big problems is that the CAC, the Community Advisory Committee, every town around the Nahant is dead set against having any of their planes flying over their town or city. They want it to fly over Nahant because we would be the least affected as far as the amount of people. That was the MIT study. We're supposedly in a test pattern right now to see about these planes that are supposedly arriving on 22 left, 22 right, or departing. I think that's called 4 right, 4 left, both the same runways, just 2 different numbers. So they are starting to fly supposedly over the causeway, and some do, most of them don't. They basically fly the same. I think it's the RNAV, like almost on a string. And I forget who it was that mentioned cutting corners. They call it what they call the waypoint, and they are turning too soon before the waypoint, and they're kind of cutting right along the tides and running along the what I call the northern side of Little Nahant, basically right on the coastline, not over the causeway. If you look at the flight tracking system that, Deanne was talking about, it looks like they're flying over the halfway house until you start enlarging the screen, and you'll see how close and closer each time you enlarge the screen that the planes are flying towards Little Nahant. You complain. They tell you they're flying half a mile away from your house, 6/10 of a mile away from your house, and then they have a right to fly over Little Nahant if they want to because of the weather conditions. unfortunately, with 22 left, 22 right, 5 right, 4 left. I mean, 5 right, 4 right. It's like Dan said, it's usually the prevailing winds, and most of the prevailing winds that are around here come either from the west, north, northwest, north, or northeast. So those runways are in use a lot more than any of the other runways. So, like Tony said, the best thing to do is call. You can also have, when you call, you can talk about signing up with your website, and they'll send you a response back on your computer. So you will have that data that, excuse me, Dan was talking about saving the data. I was looking at it just recently on the computer. I've been calling since 1995. I almost dropped dead when I saw how long my list was on this particular website. And it's very frustrating because they know we're having a problem. They don't want to believe us. I do believe it's the airlines trying to save money by the less time they're in the air. Of course, the less fuel they have to do. And again, like Tony said, excuse me, the more you call, the better you are. I think that maybe getting some of our state representatives involved, maybe sending another letter to them, meaning the town selectmen, the town administrator, maybe get together and send off another letter with the petition that we've already signed. It has over 300 signatures on it. That would be one way to kind of keep the ball rolling. We do have a committee. I'm on it. I believe Dan Scripp is the other one, but he's the one that can only get onto the CAC meetings because he's our CAC rep. I can't get on it because I'm not a representative. And I forget, not that I forget, I don't know who the other one is, but I was told we had a third one. So, I mean, I'd be more than happy to meet with these people and talk about it. And any of the selectmen want to shoot me an email, or, I'll give you my phone number. We can talk because I do have a lot of knowledge about it because I have been dealing with this, like I say, since 1995. So with that, I want to kind of drop that because I really wasn't calling because of that.
George, before you move on to the next topic,
Yeah.
I'm sharing my screen at the moment
Yep.
to show folks the flightradar24.com. I think, can you guys see that?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah,
this is a
can you
good
zoom in,
website.
Tony, so that we can see Nahant a little better?
That's not the same radar that I look at. I look at the one from Logan Airport.
This is a good tool. The one that you look at, George, as well, is another good tool.
Yep.
You can click on, these on this flight here. It
Yep.
tells you what the call sign is for that
Oh, yeah.
plane. So you can take that information. You can screenshot if you see it coming over Nahant. You can screenshot this. You can take the flight number and you can include that in your report that you log in with Logan with Massport. So it's a helpful website.
That sounds great. If you could maybe send me a copy of that via email, because I don't remember any of what you just said. But yeah, it looks like a very interesting website. I could take a look at that. But I definitely concur with you, Tony, is the fact that we just need more people calling. And like I say, maybe a little more involvement in our state reps, because I know basically what we're pushing for is what they call fair and equitable flights, where they kind of divide the flights all around the airport of Logan. So it's not just one community that's going to suffer all this stuff, because if they have their way and it happens, it's going to be unbelievably bad.
Okay.
And then secondly, my second question, I guess, is for Dan. Have we made any progress with the right of way up at what Little Nahant calls East Point to Wilson and Little Nahant Road?
Dan, you're muted.
No, we're still in the same situation. The half of that is being contested by that owner. So the 10-foot right of way, 5 of it is being contested. So we're trying to deal with that now. That's one of the reasons why we hired Tim Sherman.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the other question is, where do we stand on the short-term rental bylaw?
We're waiting to hear back from the Attorney General's office. We hope to get. Actually, I expected something last week, but we didn't get it. So probably, the holiday next week. But I expected it already, to be honest. I think they have until the end of the month in terms of a deadline, but I don't expect them to press that very much.
What happens if they don't meet the deadline? I didn't know there was a deadline.
Then I think it's what they call constructively approved, but that's not going to happen.
I hope not.
We're going to
No.
get something.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Good night, gentlemen.
Thanks, George.
Thanks,
Right.
George.
Thanks, George.
You're welcome.
Who we got
Bye.
next?
Please
Bye.
announce your name and address.
Hi, Vi Paddock, 172 Willow Road. So amazingly, just about 6 weeks from now is Christmas, and I wanted to talk about Christmas trees. So some years ago, I think it was Tony who received the request. A citizen said, how about we put Christmas trees in that piece of the dune across from the life-saving station that got kind of cut open to help stabilize the dune? And they did it. And it's remarkable. It's where the snow fence is, not directly across from the life-saving station, but not far from directly across. And so Tony and I were talking last year, I think, about the Christmas tree burning, which lasts about 30 seconds because it burns so fast. And we were kind of doubting how good this is for the environment. And so I wanted to offer the idea that maybe we should not have a Christmas tree burn. We could have a bonfire made of logs if we want to have a nice post-Christmas dark night celebration with the residents, but not to burn the Christmas trees, either to shred them, compost them, or put them on the dune. That was my first question.
Okay, Tony, you can look into that, right? I mean, you and Zach, maybe Vi, you could, suggest some locations.
Do you remember this, Tony? Do you remember this?
I do. I remember. We collect 20 times the amount of trees that we actually need for dune projects. And you're right, the one that was desperately needed because of that area. We were trying to bring that back, and I think it's worked fairly well. It certainly has kept people off of that part of the dune, along with the fencing. And I think it actually has helped collect sand in that area too. We don't really have locations similar to that right now. There may be some that I'm unaware of that we could, consider doing, but at most it's probably going to take, 20, 30 trees, and we have 1,000.
What about next to the new playground? That's all bare sand now.
That's we're going to be destroying that or renovating that, with another project. So it's not like it wouldn't be a long-term thing.
Okay, so my second question is about the golf course. So I was thinking about how, not only would it be really, well, we need to know what they've been putting on the golf course and how much, but we also need to know, have they tested the soil, for example, to determine whether X amount of fertilizer is needed or not, or what type, and what their plans are going forward. But I think we really need a detailed report of what has been done and the parameters. And I mean, our contract in some ways indicates that the town hopes that they will take good care of the golf course. It doesn't really, and the wording of the contract doesn't encourage thoughtful examination of what's needed, but rather just, applied a minimum. So I'm looking forward to a report on that.
Right, that's not going to happen. I got to tell you, quite frankly, that's not what they have to do. As long as they comply with the contract, they're fine. It's not up to us to demand that they take any tests or give us reports, although they are doing it voluntarily. That's not what they have to do. As long as they're complying with the law, which is implied with every contract, there's really nothing for us to demand from them. Remember, they're renters, basically. So they have control of the property. It's not up to us to say, you have to do this, you have to do that. As long as they're complying with the contract, there's really nothing for us to do. And we have no indication they're not complying with the contract.
For public land owned by the town and with people and children and pets on it, it seems like the public has the right to know what they're putting and how much and when.
No, they don't. They're renters. Like you might, like people rent the house. They don't have any obligation to tell the owner what they're doing inside, as long as it's not illegal, making that caveat. They have an obligation to give reports as to what's happening within that rental. It's their possession. They have the right of quiet enjoyment, and that is not something you can destroy. We're like a landlord, like anybody else. We're just a landlord in this particular case. Like we are with Coast Guard housing, we have no special powers that gives us the ability to demand that they do something outside the lease or the contract. So the demands you're making are not something we can tell Brett or Rihanna to do. As long as they're compliant with the contract and there's nothing illegal, there's nothing for us really to make them do.
Well, when I read the contract, it said very clearly the Board of Selectmen has the right to change anything in the contract at any time.
No, that's not true. Show me where it says that, and
I'll send you the text. I have a copy of the contract, and it says that very clearly, that the Board of Selectmen has complete power over the contract at any time.
No, that's not a contract.
Even if that was the case, that would contradict the procurement that we went through and procurement law. If we drastically changed the terms of operation that were included, in all of those procurement processes, it would jeopardize the legitimacy of that process. And I would say, again, while what Dan is saying is true, we have a operator who's being cooperative with us. So even though they're not required to provide us information, they are. And, as far as testing of the soil goes, they've been renting that property for 2 years. I am not going to hold them responsible for the results of the testing of that soil. I would never put them in that position. And I really want to be clear about being supportive of them. The last 4 Board of Selectmen meetings, we've had discussion about the chemicals on that property with zero information about what they're doing, being elevated beyond compliance or below or risky or not. We've had nothing but a collaborative and enjoyable relationship with them, and I want to continue that. I want to be supportive of them. Now they're working with us. They're giving us information. I think if you just give us the time to evaluate that and show you, what they're reporting to the state, how that compares to other communities, that they're actually, in fact, not they're putting down less chemicals than any other golf course in the area. I think you're going to see that, and I think it's going to be a positive story. But you just got to
that's what I'm asking for. I want to see it.
You just got to give us time. And I don't think they're putting any other chemicals down, for the rest of the year until the spring. So just give us time to go through it. We have a lot of things on the plate, and that's not something that we come across on a regular basis. So there's a lot of there's a lot of research involved in that. So we will eventually see the data. It's not going to be just saying you're saying we're collaborating. I need to see data. Yeah, like I said, I have they're required to report to MDAR, like any golf course, on an annual basis, how much and of what type of chemicals they put on the property per year. I've put in a public records request to MDAR for that same information for neighboring communities and neighboring golf courses in neighboring communities, so that we can have some sort of idea and perspective on how our golf course is doing. But we know that he's licensed. We know that he's not surpassing the maximum required amount of chemicals. But of course, in one of those previous meetings, you guys talked about that the what's legal may still not be enough, right? So that part, I don't know how that measures up. So just give us time to work through that. What is MDAR? Department of Agricultural Resources. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. The good point here is that we're in November, so there's nothing we've been put down for the next couple of months anyway. So you'll be able to put that report together, Tony. Thanks for looking into this. Any other comments?
Tony, are you getting any intern at town hall over the Christmas break?
Always happy to bring on an intern over Christmas break. If anyone is interested, please reach out to Kristen or myself. Just email us or stop in, and we'd be happy to take somebody on.
You never know. That intern could become a town administrator.
It's happened before.
Would you wish that on some bright-eyed kid?
Okay, anything else? Hey,
If there's anyone else, just please unmute yourself, announce your name and address, and
okay, if there's no more, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to an executive session.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to adjourn to executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 3A, 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. Northeastern University Marine Science Center, 430 Nahant Road, Nahant, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body.
Second,
And motion's been made and seconded, and the chair does declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town.
And we're not re-entering open session.
And we're not re-entering. So, any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none. All in favor?
Josh
Gene
Hanson, aye.
Cantor,
Mark Cullen, aye. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
We just staying on, Tony?
we're just staying on. Just give me a second to set us up.
Okay.